With the successful test drive behind the wheel of the Cadillac XT6 several months ago, tallying nearly 2,000 miles during our test drive, well, when the XT5 arrived, well, I had nostalgic feelings. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now, the XT6 that week delivered that 3 rows of comfort we needed for that round trip headed up north. But this week, it was daily driving, so something scaled down was a perfect fit. Now, this particular model year is the 2020, and it fits squarely between the XT4 and the XT6, and certainly is scaled back compared to the Escalade, this being a nice mid-size sport ute. Now, during our test drive for the XT6, we had a big requirement, really that passenger comfort. We needed that 3 rows for the holidays, delivering the family and the gear. But for this week, it really wasn't about passenger comfort more than it was the cargo space. We needed to deliver lots of gear and really didn't have many passengers. So this is where this vehicle truly shined, being able to lay that second row and transform it from a passenger hauler to a cargo. And that's the best world of sport use, and also the diversity that Cadillac delivers. XT4 being a little bit smaller, XT6 a little bit bigger, and of course the Escalade being the best of all worlds. Just like your 401k, Cadillac wants a diversified portfolio. You can certainly see it in their XT models. Pretty much each of them having their nice niche feel. And it really starts with the overall numbers. Now, XT6 measuring at around about 198 inches. The XT4 about 181. Here for the XT5, right squarely in the middle, 189 inches overall, wheelbase about 112, width about 75 inches, height 66. Now, what that pretty much means is each segment about 9 inches dividing each one. And what that pretty much means, those increments really fit squarely when it comes a little bit more legroom in the second row. And certainly when you get to the XT6, delivering that 3 rows of comfort. But for the XT5, where it shines is the best of both worlds, both 5 passenger comfort and cargo space, both when you have people and, again, for our test drive, when you transform that second row and deliver all that acreage there in the back. With the modest size differences between the 3 models, the design cues are subtle between each, pretty much all building from the XT4, that being a compact and having the typical compact look. As you move up to the XT5 and the XT6 really being the elongated approach, more of a wagon-esque look and fuller SUV styling. This being the best of both extremes. Not too much cute and cuddly and not too much robustness or squared off lines like you may associate with the XT6. And that's what I like about this model. Really nice blending of this XT lineup. First off, it really starts with the profile, where you see typically a hard midline edge. Here on the XT5, it's blended from the front and hard edges there to the back. Not a lot of chiseling like you're going to associate with smaller compacts, and not too plain Jane, which is what you typically get when you grow the vehicle bigger, maybe like you see on the XT6. But of course, across the 3 models, definitely seeing the lineage from one to the next. One thing I like about the XT5 is even though it is a nice mid-size sport ute, it doesn't try to, well, look like one. That compared to some of the competition in this size segment that have certainly held on to their utilitarian roots. The XT5 looking more premium and, could you say, blending some of the crossover segments into its overall design look. And where you see it truly is in the profile. Comparing it to the likes of the Jeep Grand Cherokee or even the Ford Explorer that have that typical SUV profile, this has a little bit more liposuctioned and tightened up overall design, specifically right here at the back end, where you see an SUV that has a proverbial rear protruding bumper. Not the case on the XT5. Everything nice and guillotined and, well, kept tight. Instead, you're just seeing this nice sawed-off approach here at the back end. And where that truly shined is, well, when you're loading this bad boy with cargo. When you're able to get right up to the back end, it takes lifting things and putting them inside, well, just one step closer. Now, before we get into all the acreage inside, let's talk about some design features here at the back end. Nice vertical rear taillights couples nicely with the headlight assembly up front. Body color all the way around this vehicle with darkened accents and chrome here and there, certainly reserved to the Cadillac emblem. As for safety, backup sensors, backup camera, and a huge bank of glass. Now, this being an SUV, and we did take it modestly off-road, this did get dirty quite quickly. But what I like on Cadillac, keeping it nice and premium instead of the, well, windshield wiper adorned here at the back end where you can obviously see it, well, they reserve it up here hidden away in the elongated approach for the roof line. Now, as for the operation, this is a powered rear hatch and 3 different ways to get inside. Hit the electronic release here on the key fob, or you can go hands-free by waving your leg, and eventually it knows you're there. Plenty of lift on this rear hatch for my 6-foot 2-inch frame to climb under with no head banging affair to speak of. On smaller models like the XT4, you may notice this just a hair lower, but what I like is the overall arching of this rear hatch really gives a cathedral-like feel once you get under it. Now, what you're going to see for operations, you do have a handle and the power button here, but on some of the competition for the vertically challenged, they put that power button here on the side. But Cadillac again gives you multiple opportunities. Again, with the key fob, you can get a running start if you need to, but don't forget you can go hand-free by swinging your leg and it will close for you. Now, looking at the spacing back here for each model with all their seating in place, first off, for the X4, that's going to be around about 22 cubic feet. For the XT6, with all 3 rows in place, not too bad, around about 12 cubic feet. But again, this one being right in the middle, giving the best of all worlds, this is having a whopping 30 cubic feet, which more than doubles when you lay the second row flat. One thing I did like when I first looked with this plastic material here at the back versus body color, some other that could be easily scratched up. But one thing I did find with the big gear we were moving in, you still got superficial scrapes on this rear fascia. Now, what I prefer is some material that just doesn't mar up. I'm not sure what that is, because I know this material as well will either dent or scrape. So something's got to be a little bit more utilitarian-esque here at the back that's just going to prevent, well, scraping up this premium vehicle. Now, what you're going to find also is this right here. Now, this was hidden under this rear cargo floor, and you'll see these tracks on either side. And what that allows you to do is really compartmentalize this back cargo area because it is so big. If you have smaller items, you're going to want to prevent them from sliding around. Just press on either side, slide it forward, and it locks into place. One other big feature I like is this tonneau cover that really extends out with ease, built-in grooves on the side, and this is going to help prevent people from looking inside and seeing your valuables. Now, for this week's test drive, we did need to lay the second row down to add more cargo, so we had to remove this here. Just nice pinching there on the side, just squeeze it. One thing to note, no place to keep this in the vehicle because it is so long. You can lay it alongside your cargo or simply leave it at home if you know you don't need it. Now, what I like is just the easeability of laying that second row, which is about an 80-20, 70-30 split. All you got to do is pull these handles on either side and they lay down in one fell swoop. Now, what I also like is the amount of, again, room here in the second row. Now, it's going to translate greatly to overall comfort for your passengers, but again, the ability to lay these seats down without removing the headrests. And again, these front seats are about as far back as they can go, so great comfort in the front and plenty of room for cargo. Now, for all 3 models, they can be equipped with a turbocharged 2.0 liter inline 4-cylinder. Delivers 237 horses and 258 foot-pounds of torque. But for the 2 bigger models, as tested, we had the 3.6 liter V6 engine. Now it delivers around about 310 horses and 271 foot-pounds of torque. Now, as for trailering capabilities for the XT4 and the XT5, that's 3,500 pounds. On the XT6 with the V6, that's going to be around about 4,000 pounds. Now, guerrilla warfare pretty much speaks for itself, but it's not just about, well, front and center, it's about the whole package. But first things is the huge broad grille. Now, this one's adorned kind of a 2-tone approach with a modest chrome brushed accent, but the surround really setting the tone. Now, on the outer sides, of course, are the headlight assemblies. First off, with that vertical stack running light that really gives a wow factor, and the huge menacing look with those broad headlights really sweeping up the haunches, and certainly goes down the whole front facade, dressing up the front end. Now, here on the outer side, you do have the implied venting, but those certainly aren't operational. All the airflow really going right through the middle. Now, at the 4 corners, you got 235, 55s wrapping a 20-inch wheel, and the newest trend, of course, is subduing the blinged out approach with this kind of darkened brush look at the 4 corners. Now, one thing I do like with the utilitarian side of things is grip as well. This model only being front-wheel drive, but the XT5 as well as the other models do come in all-wheel drive option. Another big feature I like on the XT5 is really the ease of access. We saw it here at the back hatch, of course, with the motion activator, even the key fob or the button, but it also translates here at the cabin area. Just a simple press of a button, no longer interacting with your key. And what you'll notice is you press it once, unlock the driver's door, press again, unlock all the rest. But one thing Cadillac does well here is they give that same access at the back doors. That pretty much means when it's raining, unlike some of the competition, it's not a two-step process. I can walk right up, get my gear, press the button, get in with ease. The only Achilles heel here on the XT5 is they don't secure the fill-up area. I like on premium vehicles that everything is secure, but unfortunately, this is unlocked all the time. One thing I do like though, it is capless. Now I mentioned that the XT6, XT5 both build off the XT4, and you see it really in the cabin, not the XT4 being compromised because it's smaller, but everything building from it. Pretty much meaning there's nice equal legroom across all the models. So if you go to XT4, you're not compromising when it comes to cabin space, because this, well, is actually equal to it. Now what you're going to find is around about 41 inches of legroom up front, 39 inches of legroom in the back, and specifically on the XT4, well, that's kind of just unheard of to have a smaller SUV like that feel so big on the inside. Now go all the way up to the XT6, again, equal numbers. And what that means for the XT6, like I test drove back then, is, well, when you have great legroom numbers here, that means you can squeeze up just a hair to give that third row on the XT6 even more comfort. When it comes to overall comfort on the XT5, you're going to see nice individualized attention on the outer side, decent space there in the middle, but best all is equal room for feeding all the way across, because no proverbial hump there in the middle, but one just nice seamless floor down below. Another big thing is, of course, elbow space. You have in the form of this nice elevated area here, 2 cup holders. Now when it comes to airflow, you don't have tri-zone system here, but you do have vents right where you need them in the back. General Motors, I'd say, has been in the lead when it comes to their touchscreen systems. Really nice and intuitive, colorful, and again, just easy to use. Now, first off, what you're going to find is just less clutter here on the dash. No buttons like we've seen just over the decades of vehicles. Everything getting nice and streamlined, especially from an entertainment standpoint, even right down to the climate. Now, what you're going to find up here, first off, split screen, nice shortcuts down below if you need it. Other settings over here on the left, parking sensors, parking assist, and the auto start, auto stop feature there for the engine. Now down below you'll find climate controls, dual zones up front, real easy toggle switches, fan speed. Again, I'm a big fan of knobs, but that just wouldn't fit the overall look here, so I get the fact that this needs to be an up and down button as well. Heated and cooled seats, and what I like is a vehicle really sensed what the climate was outside and would automatically set this, noting that the driver's in place. It would turn one of these on based on the outside temperature. Now the climate control does relate up above. You simply press something and you'll see it pop up here. If you click on it, it will go full screen. This is going to be helpful for the mode select, because you will note there is no real mode select button down here. You do have the front defrost, rear defrost, but this is going to give you all the other versions. Now what I do like in most cases is having all 3 vents going at one time. You do have the front vent, but you don't have the ability to have the front, middle, and bottom vents going, but instead you have to just select from these options. One thing I did wish on here when I pressed the rear defrost that would also defrost the front mirrors, but unfortunately when the back window was frosted and defrosted, that didn't equate to the mirrors doing it just the same. With the infotainment screen barely an arm stretch away, I did interact with it in the traditional sense, but you do have this central knob here, as well as shortcuts if you prefer that option, as well as the volume control here. Now, one thing to note, it does toggle up, down, twist, and all that. In some cases, I found it, well, easier to use my finger first on the screen, and in some cases, specifically with the radio, use this to dial in specifically what I want to listen to. Now, over here on the side, you will find dual cup holders. I do like Cadillac. They make everything nice and sleek, so when you don't want to see the operation, just simply hide it away. Between the front occupants, you will find a nice huge center console, nice and spongy material, giving you great elbow support, and the height is exactly where you need it. Now once it opens up, you will find this upper tray as well as deep storage and connectivity right through here. Now I was looking for wireless charging, well, don't look any further because you'll find it right here in this little niche. And one thing Cadillac has learned is not all phones are created equal, specifically when you put a case on it, but they've well mastered it here. Pretty much taken my oversized phone, slide it in with ease. In just a couple seconds, it lets you know it's charging. If your phones don't have the wireless charging, what I also like about this compartment is the wires can be tucked out right there at the bottom and then go right into the USB connection. So again, making everything nice and seamless and hidden. Now, you may have seen on some Escalade commercials that there's a huge digital readout for the gauge cluster, as well as it sweeping over to the dash. But here on the XT5, a little bit traditional with the analog tach and speedometer, but I do like the digital readout there in the middle. The controls there being on the steering wheel, you can just interact and change to a whole bunch of information, and certainly to be expected, nice heads-up display as well. Now, while the dash has been decluttered, I'd say the steering wheel is becoming the new home for any buttons that are left over. This really housing quite a bit of operation. Left side going to be for cruise control, right side for the digital display up there, as well as volume select, other selection modes for entertainment. Left side, some driving modes, specifically lane awareness, also heated steering wheel. Now, I talked about the backup camera, backup sensors, also has front sensors and surround view, and it all interacts with that nice touchscreen system up front. Now, this is the various viewpoints, and you can dial in specifically to each camera, almost like a home surveillance, really looking around this vehicle. Now, this is the front view. That's going to be helpful, of course, at slow speeds, getting into those tight spots. Press it again. It's going to give you the back view. Sweep over here to this side. This is nice elevated view there at the back end. Really helpful if you're trailering. Press it again. Once again, front view. This may be helpful with curb awareness. If you're getting too close, maybe that lower fascia may feel some scrapes and dings. Over here on the side, really looking forward here in this angle, looking where you're going. Press again, looking towards the back. Just tons of camera views that we're seeing taking the industry by storm. Again, making any driver feel much more secure with what's going on around them. That does for this edition Road Warrior test drive behind the wheel of the 2020 Cadillac XT5. And for reference, this model as tested came in at around about $65,000 with a base price of about $48,000. The extra is really coming from the Platinum Edition model that was added onto this vehicle. But at the end of the day, what we liked is the best of all worlds, really fitting squarely in the XT lineup, giving that mid-size sport-ute-like feel, and really that cargo space, which is what we demanded this week. And again, plenty of room for comfort for 5 individuals, and still room for cargo when you need it. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.